Sister Heidi.
Yes. Hello, Mike. How are you?
God bless you. I'm doing okay.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, Pastor Paul has a bad tooth, and so you've got me instead.
Oh, we're good to go. Well, I hope Pastor Paul gets better.
Yes. Mm-hmm. How are you today?
Well, I'm here. I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
You're doing good?
Doing good.
How's the world doing?
Not so good.
Not so good, huh?
It's degrading.
Mm-hmm.
It's well, it does seem like things are escalating.
Yeah. So climate, the climate has been crazy. California had waves. Hawaii had waves. We keep having atmospheric rivers out of the Pacific Northwest. Somebody told me Australia's on fire. So what's going on?
Oh, this is the part that this is my grief. This part grieves me. The weather is grieving. If people can't see it by now, something is different, and it has been for at least 5 years, longer than that, but essentially the 5 years we've been enduring this weather has been just drastic changes. Escalation after escalation, increase. The trends are increasing. The winds are breaking all records, temperatures breaking records, storms breaking records, floods breaking records, right? Everything weather related breaking records. And it's been increasing mathematically, right? It's been increasing mathematically year by year. So it's easy to see that 2025 is going to be devastating. I'll go ahead and say it. It'll be devastating as far as conditions are concerned. I don't like heat. The heat is coming. Nobody can do anything about that. Nobody can. It's already been identified what's causing the heat. That's been identified for some time now. It's pitiful they continue to use the narrative for the sake of the system and navigating people's minds in certain areas with climate change, because we're not talking about something isolated to Earth. It's not, and they know for a fact climate change. All of what we're seeing in the climate is due to the changes in the sun. Mm-hmm. And the changes in the sun should be the question. What's causing the sun to change? Mm-hmm. They won't bring that up. Have you noticed? They will not bring that up. Mm-hmm. They try to say, this is a normal solar maximum minimum cycle. No, it isn't. And it's highly abnormal. Mm-hmm. Highly abnormal. Something is affecting our sun in a very big way. It's reflecting in the activity of the sun, the chemistry of the sun changing, thus changing our circumstances here on this earth. And they're going to continue to escalate. So we're at a critical junction, though, is what I want to mention. Everybody should remember back in the 90s when they said, hey, if we if our temperature increases at 1.5 degrees, you remember that? Mm-hmm. They were saying everybody's in trouble. It's kind of like when they said, if Russia in 30 more days, Russia's going to have a breakthrough, or Russia's going to, they're going to have nuclear weapons. Well, they've been saying that since 1998, right? Right. And you mean to tell me they still don't have nuclear weapons? Sometimes we hear, we don't, but we don't hear, right? We hear and don't hear. The weather is the same way. They continue to say every single year that if we go, they stop saying it, by the way. You don't hear anybody saying if we go up another 1.2 degrees, we're in trouble. You don't hear anybody saying that, because we've gone up 1.2 degrees 4 times already. 4 times. And the every meteorologist out there is under pressure. Can you tell? Because when they start reporting the weather, they are extremely careful to go only with what the model is saying. So if they don't have the model for it, the European or USA or East and West model, they're not going to use anything. They will not give their opinion of the weather. They will stay within the parameters of what the computer data is telling them. That should capture everybody's attention who was ever interested in weather. That they are afraid probably they'll lose their jobs, but they cannot speak outside of those given parameters. Why? Because we have weather that is off the scales. It is unnatural. And it also matches a time historically when other people had to go through the same thing. Of course, not this severe and not this fast. Our weather developmental changes have taken place in the last 5 years. Normally it takes, 150 to 200, 300 years to achieve. Not this fast. They have doctored. They started keeping weather records some time ago, right? But they've doctored the records. The records cache from the 70s and the 80s do not match the records that they're referencing now. An amazing thing, huh? All this data has become digital. Nobody has, access to books anymore. There are no encyclopedias of historical weather. Because it's digital, it can easily be changed. And they are utilizing that to the best of to their own advantage. But the weather trends that we see, based on those trends, here's what we can look forward to. Of course, hurricanes come inland, right? The trending due to wind speeds and temperature shears will place hurricanes all the way to the Great Lakes this time. And instead of one actually having all the energy to make it that way, we're going to have the Gulf. The Gulf is going to be full of fuel, right? But the Gulf, if you notice this year, the heat expanded. It expanded beyond Florida, going into the Atlantic. And so now we're going to have a conveyor belt of fuel that will go to any storm. That's bottom side fuel. Top side fuel is going to fuel it even more. Through this, the added particulates in the upper atmosphere, this compression event is going to cause these storms to become much more violent. They won't, because storms right now do not need the altitude they used to. A cumulonimbus cloud would have to develop at a certain, it had to be so tall, a specific height to cause, a specific type of lightning and rainfall, this, that, and the other. All that's been compressed because the ionosphere is now becoming dense. For the first time in recorded history that we know of, is becoming dense. So as more and more particulates continue to build up in the upper atmospheres, then you have friction. You actually have physical components for friction. Well, the friction is going to reveal the real temperature up there, which is 5,000 plus degrees. Now imagine, anybody can go up there right now and nothing will happen, right? Because it's, I'll say if this were 5 years ago, nothing would happen. Right now, you're going to start feeling prickly. But there was a time when you could put anything up there. No big deal. No big deal. Because there weren't enough particulates to transfer the energy from one object to another. Heat is transferred through matter, right? So without matter, you're not going to have a heat or cold transfer of anything. As these particulates continue to come in from outside our heliosphere, it's building up in the upper atmospheres, and that heat is building. It's going to get to the point where we're going to have one big halo over the earth. So think of the sky in not too far in the future as a shimmering gold burning sky. That's very hot. That's what will happen when we hit a certain point of density in the upper atmospheres. It will seemingly ignite. And then we're going to be in real trouble until it can totally burn out. So that's a real thing. That's a very real thing. And we're approaching that. There are no time estimates on it. The process has already begun. It is ongoing. It is exponential, and it's not stopping. So weather will be, storms are going to be, I'd say about 2.5 times worse than what they were this time. We were so blessed. Elena was one of the biggest ones we had to deal with. And that caused, $50 billion in damage by itself. That was a lot. And people are still recovering from Helena. When it's all said and done, they said it will likely reach about $600 billion dollars in damages. Insurance companies, however, more insurance companies have gone under from these storms. So the storms are causing financial woes. Everything is changing, and it has to do with our atmosphere. It has to do with how they, take care of cattle and how they take care of the farms. They cannot do as they used to do. They just simply can't do that. They have put their fingers, Sister Heidi, into the some of the food and everything else for cattle, trying to make them resilient against radiation, all these different things. But they've essentially tampered with our environment so much that they have, it's all out of whack. And now a time has come that I guess they thought they were preparing for, but they have done more damage than good. Now that the heat is coming, the heat and the water is coming. The heat and the water is going to be vicious. So nobody should be surprised if they entertain a year of tsunamis. And what I mean by that, we're going to have large land disruptions in the ocean. There are going to be tsunamis in a lot of places. I would also expect more than a few 9.0 plus earthquakes in the ocean that will cause those tsunamis. Magma breaches are almost constant now. When you see magma breaches in the desert, you've made it. That means, it's really breaching. So that's what we're having. Africa is sad to say, but a lot of people have been hurt in Africa due to, magma being on the move and fires bursting out of the earth. Sinkholes have come back. Just this week, there have been some pretty large sinkholes. One took a big, huge portion of a highway and some other, property outside of that, but it was huge. That was taken. We all know about the floods that people have been enduring. Texas right now, this is December, and Texas has tornado warnings, Louisiana and all those places in Arkansas, and they're going to continue to have these Gulf-fed disastrous storms, but the water has taken its toll. And you'll begin to notice that these storms that are, 3, 4, 5, 7 inches of rain, they're going to just start devastating everything. Our infrastructure, the highways, right, the roads, you can't take that type of inundation over and over again. You can't do it. It will crumble at the seams. That means lots of landslides and land deformations. Not because of volcanism or anything, but land deformation simply because the contents underneath our feet is changing, right? It's being eroded. And we're going to face a lot of adverse conditions. And that will only be the beginning because the weather is still going to escalate. It'll escalate to the point where it's going to be very difficult for people to enjoy themselves outside, because of the winds and uncertainty of lightning and the sun. The sun is going to be quite dangerous this year, but we're going to, we're seeing all this develop, and they're trying to normalize it by smiling on all weather stations like it's normal.
Smiling,
and they do. They make it a point to smile. We're going to see our land start to crumble big time, and the water is coming. The water's coming. If the land fails, we are already in the water, right? Most of Earth is water. If the land fails, if the land erodes, we're already in the water. If in the oceans, if we have a sudden shift of land masses, and we will 1,000% have a sudden shift of land masses in the ocean, we're going to have a sudden rise of water on one side of the continent, followed by a dramatic decrease of the level of water on the other side. And it will level off, and that's going to take some time for it to level off. We're going to see that type of event. And there will not be a spot on the earth where you'll be able to step that's not soggy. Now, God said he would not destroy the earth by water. This won't be destruction, but it will certainly be it's going to give some folks some headaches. It's going to be a challenging situation. And when it happens the first time, that's when people will notice This is possible. But that, based on the trend, is going to be followed by nothing but dryness. And when I say nothing but dryness, I mean no rain whatsoever will fall. Mm-hmm. People are going to start to see the clouds totally dissipate. How will that happen? Through that particle density increase in the upper atmospheres is going to start drying everything out. That's when humidity drops to 8%. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be so imagine no water or no rain for a year, for the first year, right? That'll be devastating. And then imagine that continues. Mm-hmm. It does not abate. It continues. Those are the types of environments we're coming into. Everything will be dust on the surface of the earth without water. Yeah, because the particle count is becoming so dense. They have moved so many satellites in different orbits to avoid this. Friction is building up on the satellites to the point where they have to move them. They have to move them to a higher altitude to get away from the friction. Now that should alert everybody that yes, we have a changing atmosphere at an accelerated rate. Mm-hmm. But there we are.
Yeah.
Well, Sister Heidi, God bless you. It's always an honor. Pastor Paul, God bless you too, and everybody out there.
All right.
God bless.
Blessings to you. Thank you.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.